Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be focusing on vehicles, and we're going to be focusing on several different things. We're going to talk about movement speed, forward and back, to see if there's a difference, how they compare with each other, whether the ATV is going to be faster than the Bertha, and how does that differ between just running that particular distance. On top of that, we're going to also take a look at the damage values, how much damage you need to do to each one of the individual vehicles to destroy it, how FMJ works with that, as well as the Cavalry Barrel. Is it actually adding more vehicle damage to the Cold War weapons? If you enjoy the video, learn something new, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new looking to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Also, just a heads up, my Gfuel discount code is tripled currently all the way until Monday the 22nd. So if you're looking to restock, try something new, they have tons of sample options. Go ahead and use the link down in the description or just code JGOD at checkout. One little side note is I was actually tagged in a retweet of this Twitter video, which is I calculated the speeds of every car in Warzone, and the guy goes on to list the different speeds in miles per hour. And initially I thought that was a very cool concept, but those numbers don't really translate very well when it comes to Warzone, because we usually do everything in meters. You grab a bounty, it says they're 245 meters away. What does that mean? Miles per hour conversion? Most people are not going to know that off the top of their head. So let's go ahead and take a look at the conversion. I also included the helicopters, and we'll also get into damage, but I thought I'd include this because this was kind of the inspiration for the video. Let's go ahead and get into the numbers. So just to put it in perspective, everything's going to be listed on the screen. So if you want to take your screenshots, you're more than welcome to, but pretty much a standard walking speed. Obviously it's going to differ depending if you're barehanded with the pistol. I kind of took a little bit of an average, and the distance you normally walk is about 4.5 meters per second, which translates to 10 miles per hour roughly, and that's 16 kilometers per hour if you need a real life equivalent of it. In reality, this kind of doesn't make sense because the normal walking speed of a regular person, 3.5 miles per hour. So this is triple that in game if you are walking rather briskly, I guess you could say. When it comes to slide canceling and tack sprinting, if you're maximizing, obviously you can get a little bit faster with the absolute fastest weapons, but usually you're going to cap out right around 6.5 meters per second, which equates to about 14.5 miles. Obviously people can run significantly faster than that in real life, so there are some differences there. 23.4 kilometers per hour, so whatever that means to you. And this continues going from slowest all the way to the fastest vehicle. We have the cargo truck, which most people call the Bertha, 15.2 meters per second. And one thing I did want to include with this is a lot of times if you just look at the regular number and you know that the Bertha goes 15 meters per second, if you know that something is 150 meters away, that means it'll take approximately 10 seconds to get there in a Bertha. So it's just something to use as a relative multiplication if you get a rough estimate of certain ones and what they do. As you can see, most sit between 15 to 20 with the exception of the Heli. So you can kind of do some quick math, times it by 10, you're going to double that, or you're going to go 10 times that distance in meters. We have the SUV, which goes slightly faster at almost 17 meters per second. ATV even faster at 17.8, almost 18 meters per second. Then we have the TAC Rover at 19.4 meters per second. You can see how those translates to miles per hour and kilometers per hour. And the helicopter is by far the fastest at 25, almost 26 meters per second. I measured these both forward and backwards in reverse, and it ends up coming up the exact same time. So there's no speed boost by going in reverse, and you're not going to be going slower by going in reverse. So it doesn't really matter which direction you go. These vehicles are essentially capped at a certain speed, which is pretty important to know. I was actually surprised by going through this because I never would have thought the TAC Rover would be faster than an ATV. I thought the ATV would just be miles faster just by overall feel. And I did not think there was a big enough difference between the SUV and the TAC Rover, but apparently it's about 3 or 4 meters per second difference. So it's a pretty big difference, especially when you're traveling 200 to 300 meters across the map. So now that gets us into the damage phase of this, and this is pretty straightforward. Obviously, if you're a walking player or a slide canceling player, the damage no difference. I kind of just included those to keep everything consistent. The cargo truck or the Bertha actually requires 3,600 damage, and I did multiple tests to do this. What I did is I shot a vehicle at point blank, knowing the individual damage values, counting how many bullets were required to shoot into it. Then I shot it from over 100 meters away, making sure I was very accurate to hit the shots. And then pretty much I averaged those numbers. They were within a relative margin of error. So that's kind of where it comes up. Obviously it could be 3650 or 3550. At the end of the day, this is about as close as you're going to get without measuring it on hours on end for each of the individual vehicles. SUV about 2,000 damage. The ATV is only 900 damage. And the one that really surprised me is the TAC Rover. I always figured it was a little bit more destructible than some of the other vehicles, but 1,200 damage is like nothing. And you're going to see how fast you can delete these things and why the Bertha ends up being so powerful within solos and is essentially the meta. The helicopter is up there. It's almost as strong as a cargo truck at 3,200 damage. And when you're actually looking at this, one of the things that is pretty important is to give you a rough estimate of shots to kill and overall TTK of that vehicle. I thought I'd include that because I really haven't seen that anywhere. And what I did is I used a 5.56 ammo. I specifically used the Kilo, but obviously some weapons might be a little bit stronger at range. Maybe if you're using the Growl, the M4, the Bruin, all 5.56 weapons will allow you to get this damage output. Obviously, if you're using something like the Odin, it's going to take significantly less shots, but you're going to have a slower fire rate. I mean, there's a lot of variables to look at, but essentially when using 5.56 ammo, it's going to be 125 point blank if you're literally standing on top of it and that first damage drop off. And at the furthest, it takes about 200 shots to kill, which makes it so that if one person is trying to shoot out a Bertha, it's going to take 20 plus seconds to destroy the Bertha. Full auto, reload, full auto, reload, full auto, reload. Over 20 seconds to destroy that Bertha, which is kind of insane. When you get 60 round of mag, that's 3 reloads in the mix, so it gets pretty crazy. SUV, 64 up close, 120 at the furthest distance, which takes about 10 plus seconds to shoot out an SUV. If somebody is on an ATV, these things get obliterated. So if you ever see, this is one other reason why I want to bring this up. You'll see it as we get to the next one. If you're in quads or trios, these things get obliterated. ATV is around 32 to 50 shots at range, which only takes about 4 seconds. You can obliterate a quad or an ATV within 1 mag, with the Kilo. So pretty straightforward. The TAC Rover, 40 to 70. So that one, it takes about 6 seconds. Obviously, you got to get a reload in there. You're going to fire some shots at range or whatever. So for that particular instance, if you're in duos or trios, if you guys just shoot at that barely, you can obliterate it in like 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, and just completely destroy the TAC Rover. So if you see those on the map, they are not safe. The SUV is significantly safer with almost twice as much health that you need to damage to actually take it out. So that's a huge learning thing for me, because in terms of safety, SUV is going to be the way to go, even though it is slightly slower. Then we have the Heli, which obviously the Heli is very meaty at 3,200 damage, but this ends up being around 180 shots. Most time you're not going to be point blank, but 180 shots takes about 18 plus seconds to down. So keep in mind that if you're in a full squad, you can divide that by 4, and that number looks like 4 seconds to completely down, where it disables the helicopter. So keeping that in perspective, it doesn't take a long time to destroy any of these vehicles in a coordinated effort. Obviously in solos, Bertha reigns supreme for the reasons it does. Obviously you could throw a C4 or a couple nades and try and deal some damage that way. Keep in mind, it is going to waste a lot of ammo, and you're going to have to pull out a munitions box or call an aerial streak. So even though it's not currently meta, what I did want to also tack onto this is if you use FMJ, it will actually make it so your shots do 50% more damage to these vehicles. In addition, you'll be able to do a little bit more damage through walls, but 50% is a huge difference. So essentially in this case, for the Bertha, instead of taking 200 shots to down or destroy, it could be closer to about 150. Obviously a little bit less than that. That kind of gives you a heads up. And then when it comes to the Cavalry Barrel, I tested it 4 different LMGs, and pretty much it's the identical damage. There was no difference in using it or not using it, so it's clearly not doing exactly what it says, other than obviously it gives you that bullet velocity on all the Cold War LMGs, even though that's not listed. So I thought I'd focus a little bit on that. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video, learned something new. If you did, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, just double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Also, a quick reminder, my Gfuel code discount is tripled all the way until Monday the 22nd. So if you'd like to stock up or try something new, go ahead and make sure you check out the link in the description, or just code JGOD at checkout. Appreciate all the support on the content. Thank you guys for watching. As always, have a great day.